mentioned you raised money to build your venture.
Yeah.
And how was that experience for you as a guy who came from Silicon Valley, working at Stripe, raising money for your first time, I assume? How was that? How was that process doing that with your co-founders?
So we waited for a while to do it, to the point you made earlier of start with the customers, start with the product, don't rush out to raise. We were in no hurry. We each put 50K into the venture to start. And we took no salaries, and expenses are low for this kind of business. That was plenty to run for a while.
Stripe must have been good. I like it.
No, it's you put in your own savings, right? And run it that way. We got to the first 10 to 20 customers who were using the product and were happy. That had taken us up to sort of north of $1 million in ARR. So, okay, there's starting to be some revenue. The company's starting to pay its own expenses. We're starting to hire off of that revenue. That's a nice moment to raise because the business has proven that there's something working. We don't need the fundraising. We can sort of run off the revenue at that point. The company's so small. So it is true what they say. The time to raise money is when you don't need to raise money. So that's when we did. We put together a Series A. A great piece of advice we got on fundraising was, tangent, like many companies, we put together a board at the same time we put together a Series A. The Series A
Smart.
Investors were represented on the board. So the advice we got is boards can be more downside risk than upside creation, right? There's a limit to how much upside you're going to get. Like, what's the world's bestest board versus the world's 10th best board? But board drama and investor drama kills companies. So the advice we got was go with people you trust, go with relationships, go with people who are in it for the long term and aren't going to bring drama to the company. So we took that lens when choosing what external investors to work with.
And how's it been thus far? Have you had drama, or has it been amicable thus far? There's always a little bit of drama every once in a while, but tell us your rationale.
The goal succeeded. No, we've benefited from a wonderful board. It was sort of Michael Moritz and John Doerr who were on the board originally. So they were both sort of storied investors that we'd worked with a bit in the past through sort of Stripe in Moritz's case. He was on the board there as well. And climate work in John Doerr's case. He and Taylor had done sort of nonprofit climate work in the past. So these were folks we knew. These were folks who brought awesome experience to the board. And it's been great.
That's awesome. And you have a big audacious goal. You want by 2030 to remove 1% of global emissions through customers' actions. That's bold. How do you translate that emission into a day-to-day priority?
So that's that 500 megatons, and that's that the largest company, like huge companies, do about that much in their own annual emissions. So our thinking was, if we can get the linchpin companies using Watershed, and then if we can help them 5%, 10%, 20%, you're not going to transform the whole business overnight. But you have enough huge companies that can put a 5 to 10% dent in their emissions. That's enough for the lofty goal. So it was then a two-part challenge for us as founders of get the world's largest, most important companies to trust Watershed. And second, make them successful, like deliver that 5 to 10% of progress in these first few years of using us. The customer base today does 2 billion tons of annual emissions. We think about sort of emissions under management of this sort of metric of growth of our business. Ultimately, that's a number that we're trying to drive down, right? Driving it down is good for the climate. But in the immediate term, by selling more large companies, we drive it up. So 2 billion, we think to get to this 1% by 2030 goal, we probably need to scale the customer base sort of at least another 5x. hopefully we do a lot better than that. There's 2030 is a long way away, but it's interestingly kind of close. Like for the mission goal, we're close to the scale we need to be. And then it's the same, thing that's existential for any company is, can you make the customer successful? Their needs are complex. The job is complex. In this problem space, it lives at the intersection of climate science, data science, and operational excellence. Like those are the skill sets that the customer is trying to bring to bear. There aren't many people in the world who combine all of those skills in one person. So the customer's trying to build a team of people using Watershed. And this is where the AI piece comes in. We're trying to scale through software climate expertise that lives in the head of a really small number of people, right? And we're trying to fix that rate limiting step by scaling that expertise through software, including AI software.